Arcane Grove Academy, A Legacy of the Hidden Folk, Chapter 1. Arcane Grove Academy, A Legacy of the Woods. Many years had passed since the Great Cleansing, the day the Appalachian woods breathed free once more, purged of the creeping blight. The siblings, Leo and Maya, who as children had wielded ancient magic and plant lore against the encroaching darkness, grew into adults, their knowledge of the unseen world deepening with every passing season. They never forgot the lessons learned from Mim and Glim, from the ancient Kengotila, and the profound connection to Wakheng that flowed through the very heart of the forest. As the world outside continued its bustling, oblivious pace, they saw the quiet fading of understanding, the gradual thinning of the veil that separated humanity from the vibrant spirit realm. And so, with heavy hearts and a burning sense of purpose, they knew they had to act. In their elder years, Leo and Maya, aided by the subtle guidance of the forest folk and the wisdom accumulated over a lifetime, established a place where the old ways could be remembered, where the true sight could be taught to those deemed worthy. It began humbly, with just a handful of students, whispered about in hushed tones in certain enlightened circles. But word, like a dandelion seed on the wind, began to spread, and what was once a quiet sanctuary blossomed. Now, nestled deep within the verdant embrace of the Appalachians, cloaked by a magic so ancient and cunning it was almost alive, stood the Arcane Grove Academy. To any ordinary traveler, the vast stretch of forest where it resided was merely empty woods. They might wander for hours, convinced they had passed through, only to find themselves inexplicably back on the same winding road they'd started from, utterly unaware of the grand Victorian mansion hidden just beyond their sight. Yet, year-round, within its wards, the academy buzzed with the quiet energy of nearly 100 students, each one on a path to rediscover the magic of the world. The academy was presided over by an elder adult, a man whose dark, curly hair and keen, observant eyes hinted at a familiar lineage, Maya's son, the current headmaster, steeped in the traditions passed down through generations. And within its hallowed walls, 3 distinct schools of magic thrived. The School of Spirit, where the whispers of the unseen world were heard. The School of Nature, where the very essence of growth and green power was mastered. And the School of the Warrior, for those who would protect the balance with strength and fierce determination. Each school had its master teacher, and each teacher, in turn, had an aide, ensuring the ancient knowledge was passed down with care and precision. Chapter 1. Emily, whose 10th birthday had come and gone with the usual flurry of forgotten toys and forced smiles for distant relatives, was, to put it mildly, dreadfully bored. Her suburban cul-de-sac felt like a repeating loop of uninspired homework and her parents' well-meaning but ultimately dull efforts to engage her in enriching activities. Neither had ever truly seen Emily, not the part of her that often stared out the window, tracing patterns in the condensation, or listened intently to the sighing of the wind outside her bedroom. One sweltering July afternoon, as Emily lay sprawled on her bed, attempting to read a particularly dry textbook on historical dates, a peculiar shimmer caught her eye. It was a ripple in the air itself, right beside her old, chipped bedside table, shimmering with an ethereal, iridescent light. Slowly, an envelope, not made of paper but of something akin to polished, dark wood, materialized within the shimmer. No stamps, no address, just an intricate, swirling symbol embossed on the front. A stylized tree with roots that resembled intertwining arms, embracing a single, glowing star. It hummed faintly, a vibration Emily felt more in her bones than in her ears. Curiosity overriding her usual caution, Emily reached out. As her fingertips made contact, the shimmer intensified, swirling like a miniature galaxy, and a voice, soft as rustling leaves but clear as a bell, spoke from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Welcome, child who sees." Emily gasped, snatching her hand back. The shimmer pulsed, then expanded into a shimmering, doorway-sized oval, hanging vertically in the air. Through it, she could glimpse not her mundane bedroom, but a vibrant, impossible green, a tapestry of leaves and dappled sunlight. A small, intricate scroll, tied with a delicate green ribbon, floated gently from the portal and landed softly on her bed. Unfurling it, Emily read the graceful, flowing script. To Emily, daughter of the curious mind and the listening heart, the threads of the unseen world are woven into your spirit. The ancient forests call to you. A path, long forgotten by many, awaits. Should you choose to walk it, step into the shimmer. The journey will begin at once. The Arcane Grove Academy awaits. The forest remembers its true friends. Emily raced to her parents, the scroll clutched in her hand, breathless. Her mother, initially skeptical, took the wooden scroll, but the impossibly warm wood and the important feel of the invitation swayed her. Her father, always one for opportunity, quickly found vague online whispers of an exclusive, transformative institution. Without truly believing in magic, they saw it as a prestigious boarding school and, with a flurry of hastily packed bags, sent Emily through the shimmering portal, utterly unaware of the magical world her daughter was about to enter. The sensation was akin to stepping through a warm, impossibly thick curtain. One moment, Emily was in her suburban bedroom. The next, she stood on a sprawling, perfectly manicured lawn. The air crisp and clean, smelling of pine and damp earth. Sunlight, bright and unwavering, bathed everything in a golden glow. The shimmering portal closed behind her with a soft pop, leaving no trace. Before her stood a building that took her breath away. It was a magnificent old Victorian mansion, its red bricks softened by time, its gables and turrets reaching towards the clear blue sky like welcoming arms. Ornate gingerbread trim adorned its edges, and ivy, thick and dark, clung to its walls, making it seem both grand and intimately connected to the surrounding wilderness. Every window glittered, reflecting the vast, green forest that stretched outwards in every direction. This was the Arcane Grove Academy, cloaked by an ancient magic ward that made it invisible to the outside world, appearing only as empty forest land to those who weren't meant to find it. Emily wasn't alone. Spread across the sun-drenched lawn, a small group of other children, perhaps a dozen or so, stood wide-eyed and bewildered, their hastily packed bags lying at their feet. Like Emily, they were all about 10 years old, their faces a mix of curiosity, apprehension, and dawning wonder. A boy with a shock of bright red hair nervously adjusted his glasses. A girl with intricately braided dark hair clutched a worn teddy bear. They exchanged tentative glances, silent questions passing between them. None of them seemed to truly know why they were here, or what this prestigious school truly entailed. As they stood, silently taking in their surroundings, a tall, distinguished figure emerged from the grand front doors of the mansion. He moved with a quiet grace, his dark, curly hair flecked with silver at the temples, and his eyes, a familiar shade of intelligent brown, held a deep, ancient wisdom. He was dressed in simple, earthy-toned robes that seemed to blend with the very light of the forest. This was the headmaster, Maya's son, his lineage a living bridge to the academy's founding. He approached them, a gentle smile on his face, his voice warm and resonating like the deep thrum of an ancient drum. "Welcome, young ones. Welcome to the Arcane Grove Academy. You are here because the forest has called to you, because within each of you lies a flicker of the old ways, a forgotten whisper of Wakheng that has stirred awake." He paused, his gaze sweeping over their wide-eyed faces. Many years ago, this very land, and the spirits that dwell within it, faced a great darkness. It was a blight, a void that sought to consume all life, all harmony. Two young guardians, no older than some of you are now, stood against it, wielding understanding, respect, and the very essence of nature itself. They learned from the hidden folk of these woods, the wise Kangotila, the mischievous Memagwizi, the shimmering Memagwans, the rhythmic Joga. They learned to listen to the land, to speak its ancient language, to channel its life force, and to heal its wounds. They understood that to truly defeat darkness, one must bring light, and to cleanse corruption, one must foster life. This academy, the headmaster continued, his voice softening, is their legacy. It is a place for those who hear the whispers, for those who feel the pulse of the earth, for those who are called to protect the balance. Here, you will not merely learn spells from books. You will learn to become one with nature, to treat all living things, seen and unseen, with profound respect, for every leaf, every stone, every creature, holds a part of the Great Spirit walking. Your journey will be challenging, demanding, and unlike anything you have ever known. But it will also be the most rewarding, for you are the new guardians. You are the future of the unseen world. With a sweep of his arm, he beckoned them forward. Come, let us begin. The headmaster led the small group of children into the grand entrance hall of the mansion. It was a cavernous space, with a high, vaulted ceiling and polished wooden floors that gleamed under the soft, natural light filtering through tall, arched windows. The scent of old wood, beeswax, and something fresh and green, like damp earth, hung in the air. In the center of the vast entry room, arranged in a silent, powerful semicircle, stood 3 life-size statues, each carved from a different, rich, polished wood, imbued with a quiet dignity. Emily, along with the other children, stopped short, gazing at them with wide, mesmerized eyes. The first statue, crafted from a dark, gnarled oak, was of a small, wizened figure. Its face was a tapestry of wrinkles, like ancient bark, and its eyes, though carved from smooth, polished river stones, seemed to hold infinite wisdom. It was a Kangotila, its arms outstretched in a gesture of welcome and ancient knowledge. This, the headmaster said, his voice hushed with reverence, represents the school of spirit, for those who seek to understand the whispers of the unseen, to communicate with the spirits of the wind and water, the echoes of those long past, and to channel the raw, spiritual energy of Wakang itself. It is the path of intuition, of inner sight, of profound connection to the ethereal. The second statue, carved from a sturdy, shaggy birch, depicted a short, stout figure with bright, inquisitive eyes carved from glittering green jade. Its body was covered in meticulous etchings that resembled dense, mossy fur, and its small, nimble hands were delicately carved, one holding a tiny, intricate flower, the other a cluster of vibrant berries. It was unmistakably a Memagwizi, brimming with a playful energy even in stone. And this, the headmaster continued, gesturing to the second statue, is for the school of nature, for those whose hearts beat with the rhythm of the earth, who yearn to understand the language of plants, to coax life from the soil, to accelerate growth, and to wield the tangible power of the natural world. It is the path of cultivation, of healing, of bringing forth life from the very essence of the land. Finally, the third statue, carved from a dark, rugged piece of petrified wood, was of a formidable, gray-skinned figure. Its long, spindly fingers were depicted reaching out, and its face, though somewhat obscured by shadow, held a watchful, almost fierce intensity. From its head erupted 2 short, jagged antlers, hinting at its wild, untamed nature. It was a Pukwudgie, though its representation here was less mischievous, more a guardian, powerful and vigilant. And this, the headmaster concluded, his voice deepening with solemnity, is for the school of the warrior, not a warrior of blades and conflict, though strength is vital, but a protector. For those who feel the call to defend the balance, to stand against corruption, to guard the unseen world from those who would harm it. It is the path of courage, of fierce loyalty, and of unwavering resolve. He turned to face the children, his gaze piercing but kind. Each of you carries a unique spark, a predisposition towards one of these paths. Step forward when you are ready and choose the school that calls most strongly to your spirit. Do not think with your mind, but with your heart, with the deep knowing that rests within you. Silence settled, thick and expectant. The other children shuffled nervously, looking from one majestic statue to another. The red-haired boy seemed drawn to the earthy Memegwezi, his hand twitching towards it. The girl with the braided hair kept glancing at the vigilant Pukwudgie. Emily felt a pull, a deep, resonant hum, from the Kangotila. It wasn't a choice, not truly. It was a recognition. Her mind, the one that used to get bored with textbooks, felt a profound sense of peace and rightness as she looked at the ancient, wise eyes of the spirit statue. She walked forward, her steps light, and placed her hand gently on the polished oak base of the Kangotila. A faint, pure warmth spread through her palm, a feeling of coming home. The headmaster smiled, a knowing glint in his eyes. The path of spirit, a wise choice, Emily. He then guided the other children one by one, each making their choice, some with quiet certainty, others with tentative curiosity. By the time everyone had chosen, the groups began to form, a smaller cluster around the Pukwudgie, a larger, more boisterous one around the Memegwezi, and Emily's group, about 15 of them, gathered around the serene Kangotila. Excellent, the headmaster announced, his voice ringing with approval. Now, to your new homes. The journey to their dormitories was less a walk and more a guided revelation. The headmaster, with a wave of his hand, led the groups through different, seemingly ordinary doors and passages within the grand mansion. Yet each step seemed to lead deeper into the very essence of the academy. Emily and her 15 fellow students, the new aspirants of the School of Spirit, followed a kindly aide, a young woman with a quiet demeanor and eyes that seemed to constantly gaze at things unseen. They were led through a series of elegant corridors, past rooms filled with arcane artifacts and shimmering tapestries, until they reached what appeared to be the mansion's vast, stately library. It was a magnificent space, filled from floor to ceiling with countless bookshelves, each laden with ancient tomes, leather-bound volumes, and scrolls that seemed to glow with faint, internal light. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and dust motes, dancing in the light that poured through immense, stained glass windows depicting swirling constellations and ethereal beings. This was the kind of place Emily used to dream about, far more exciting than her dry textbooks. This, their aide whispered, her voice barely audible above the gentle hum of the library, is where your journey truly begins. She led them to a particularly imposing bookshelf, laden with towering stacks of ancient, dusty tomes on subjects like aura reading for beginners and the whispers of the old earth. With a soft, almost imperceptible gesture, she touched a hidden spring on a large, leather-bound volume titled The Language of Pure Intent. With a low groan of ancient wood and the soft click of unseen mechanisms, the entire bookshelf swung inwards, revealing a hidden passage. Beyond it was not a dark corridor, but a brightly lit, circular room, surprisingly cozy. The walls were lined not just with more scrolls and books, but also with shimmering charts depicting constellations, diagrams of energy flows, and ancient symbols that seemed to glow with soft light. Cushions were scattered on the floor, and small, individual nooks, each with a comfortable bed, were carved into the walls. The air here was lighter, clearer, filled with a faint, musical hum that resonated deep within Emily's chest. This was their dormitory, the sacred space for the School of Spirit. Welcome to your home, young ones, the aide said, her voice now a little stronger, echoing gently in the circular room. This dormitory, hidden in plain sight, is designed for deep contemplation and connection. Here, your spiritual senses will awaken, and your inner eye will truly open. There are 14 other students already here, some boys and some girls, who are further along on their path. They will be your companions, your guides, and your new family. Emily looked around, her heart swelling with a mixture of excitement and awe. 14 other students, boys and girls of varying ages, some already engrossed in large, glowing scrolls, others quietly meditating on plush cushions. A small group of girls, a year or two older than herself, looked up, their eyes, surprisingly, kind and welcoming. One of them, a girl with shimmering, silvery hair that seemed to catch the light, offered a gentle smile. "Hi," she whispered, her voice soft and melodious, like a distant chime. "You're new to Spirit, right? I'm Luna. This is Asher." She gestured to a quiet boy with intensely focused green eyes. "And this is Chloe," indicating a bubbly girl with a cascade of fiery red curls. "Come on in, find a nook. We were just about to try a group meditation to connect with the ancient winds. Want to join?" Emily grinned, a genuine, unforced smile that stretched across her face. "I'm Emily, and yes, please." As she settled into a vacant nook, Emily immediately felt a sense of belonging. The conversation flowed easily with Luna, Asher, and Chloe, as they shared nervous excitement about the academy and whispered theories about their first classes. Emily learned that Luna had a knack for sensing emotions. Asher was fascinated by ancient languages, and Chloe claimed to dream in colors that hummed with invisible energies. It was clear these were kindred spirits. Later that evening, the entire first-year class gathered in the grand dining hall for supper. The hall was abuzz with chatter, a cacophony of nervous excitement and curious whispers. Emily sat with Luna, Asher, and Chloe, busily dissecting the peculiar but delicious root vegetable stew placed before them, when a boy at a nearby table caught her eye. He was a year or two older, perhaps 12, with sharp, intelligent eyes and a restless energy about him. He had a lean, athletic build, and a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer seemed to cling to his skin, as though he had just stepped out of a heat haze. Emily felt a prickle of something ancient and wild about him, a sense of raw, untamed power. He met her gaze, a small, knowing smile playing on his lips. Without a word, his features began to subtly shift. His nose seemed to flatten slightly, his eyes elongated, and his jawline sharpened, becoming almost lupin. It was incredibly subtle, a blink and you miss it transformation, but unmistakable. Then, with another barely perceptible ripple, his face returned to normal. He gave a small, confident nod in Emily's direction. Luna nudged Emily. "That's Kale," she whispered, a hint of awe in her voice. "He's in the warrior dorm. They say he's special. His family lineage is very old, very tied to the animal spirits. He's a skinwalker. He can actually change his shape." Emily stared, utterly captivated. A skinwalker. She'd read about them in some of the basic folklore books her parents had owned, dismissed them as mere legends. But here he was, in the flesh, a living, breathing testament to the wild magic of the world. Kale, she noted, was now engaged in a quiet conversation with another warrior student, but Emily couldn't tear her eyes away from him for a moment. This school was even more extraordinary than she could have ever imagined. Luna settled cross-legged on a large cushion, the other older students gathering around, their faces alight with anticipation. "You see, young ones," Luna began, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper, "this academy, these very walls, stand here because of a tale so extraordinary, so utterly wild, it barely seems real. It's the story of Leo and Maya, our founders. It's the legend of the great cleansing. It began, as all truly great stories do, with a darkness so profound it threatened to swallow the very light from the world. A vast, shadowy entity, a blight, had consumed the heart of our beloved Appalachian woods. Imagine, if you can, a forest choked, gasping, turning from vibrant green to a putrid, festering wasteland. That's what the void was. A living, breathing nightmare of congealed shadow and malevolence. With eyes, I tell you, that burned with a sickening radioactive green, deep within a stagnant, toxic pond. It was a place of spiritual decay, feeding on despair, on every fractured spirit, on every whisper of fear. It was a gaping wound on the very soul of the world. Luna leaned forward, her silver hair shimmering in the soft light. But then there were two children, our founders. Leo, barely a boy, but with an inner sight so keen, honed by the ancient Kangotila themselves, that he could see the invisible threads of Wakheng, the very life force of the universe. And his older sister, Maya, with a gift, a most astonishing gift, taught to her by the meticulous Memegwizi, Glim, the power to accelerate growth, to coax life from the tiniest seed into a towering tree in mere moments. A truly breathtaking ability, as if the very spirit of the forest itself sang through her fingertips. Their strategy, my friends, was audacious beyond belief. Fight darkness with overwhelming life. They didn't come with swords or fire. They came with seeds and light. They started from the outer edges of that blighted clear-cut, pushing inward, relentlessly replanting the devastated land. Day after day, weeks blurred into a grueling cycle of planting, channeling, and pushing the green tide forward. Under Maya's touch, wild strawberries erupted like verdant carpets, their resilient roots binding the soil and drawing in the forest's healing energy. Red maple and river birch saplings, once tiny whispers of possibility, shot skyward as if racing the clouds, their branches unfurling with astonishing speed, their new leaves drinking in the sunlight, pushing back against the oppressive stench of the void. And all the while, Mim, the ever-shimmering Memegwans, whose form was like caught moonlight, and Glim, the chittering Memegwizi, a blur of shaggy energy, and countless other forest spirits worked alongside them, tirelessly gathering seeds, channeling Wakheng, their very existence a song of hope. The clear-cut, once a symbol of utter desolation, began to shrink, consumed by a rapidly growing, vibrant new forest. Oh, the cries, the shrieks of the corrupted spirits. They were twisted, shadowed things, consumed by the void's sickness. But as the revitalized Wakheng washed over them, their forms flickered in agony before dissolving into shimmering motes of pure light, healed and free. They were no longer monsters, but gentle, glowing forms that danced towards the new saplings, finding peace in their return to harmony. It was a symphony of spiritual liberation. Luna's eyes gleamed as she reached the climax of the tale. Finally, after what felt like an age, they stood at the precipice of the polluted pond itself, the very, very heart of the corruption. The void, diminished but seething with concentrated malice, writhed violently, a vast, black maw of pure malevolence. And it lashed out. Oh, it lashed out. It hurled massive logs and splintered debris from the ruined landscape, projectiles of pure, distilled hatred aimed at the two brave children. It was a fury to shatter mountains, a desperate, dying rage. Leo, even then a master of spirit, roared, "Now!" And with a surge of pure Wakheng, thrust his hands forward. The ancient words of the bubble of untouchable grace flowed from his lips, and a sphere of pure, shimmering white light erupted from his hands, enveloping them both, a shield of absolute harmony against the void's terrible rage. The logs and debris slammed against that bubble, exploding harmlessly into splinters, sending sparks flying as if a thunderbolt had struck, but the shield held, unwavering, indomitable, a beacon of purity against the encroaching night. And what did Maya do? Even as the world seemed to scream around them, she answered, "The seeds. Now, while my shield holds." Leo urged, his concentration absolute. Maya, her face a mask of grim determination, flung handfuls of cattail and water lily seeds into that churning, putrid pond. She focused, channeling her accelerated growth, pushing the very essence of life into those tiny seeds. And the moment those seeds touched that vile water, the pond erupted, not with void power, oh no, but with an astonishing, violent burst of life. Thick, green shoots of cattails exploded upwards, their growth so rapid it was almost audible, a strange, triumphant gurgling sound of life reclaiming what was lost. They pushed through the stagnant water, their roots greedily drinking in the corruption. Broad leaves of water lilies unfurled on the surface, their delicate white flowers blooming instantaneously, pushing back against the black goo, a stark, breathtaking contrast of purity against decay. The void shrieked, a dying, desperate scream of agony as the vibrant life tore at its amorphous form, draining its essence. Then, with a final magnificent push, Leo stepped forward, his feet splashing in the now less viscous water, his shimmering bubble still holding firm around them. He closed his eyes, focusing all his energy, all the wisdom of the Kangotila, all the channeling power Mim had taught him. He remembered the ritual that had cleansed the first corrupted spirit in the cave, the pure white light that ripped away darkness, and he spoke the words that echoed from the dawn of time. By the grace of Wakheng, by the breath of the forest, by the enduring life of the land, be cleansed, be purified, return to harmony. And oh, my friends, what a sight it was! A blinding, incandescent white light erupted from Leo, a beacon of purest Wakheng that pierced the gloom of the clear-cut, radiating outward from the pond. It slammed into the shrinking, black mass of the void. The entity roared one last, desperate scream of pure agony and impotent fury, its glowing green eyes flickering wildly, diminishing, then vanishing. The black goo frothed violently, dissolving into iridescent bubbles that popped silently, releasing a sweet, clean smell, like fresh rain on ancient earth. The massive form of the void collapsed, shrinking rapidly, disintegrating into shimmering particles that diffused into the water, becoming one with the cleansing plants, its essence purified and returned to the great flow of Wakheng. And then, silence. A profound, resonant, beautiful silence settled over the clear-cut, a silence of peace and completion. The awful green pond cleared, its surface teeming with healthy cattails and water lilies, their white blossoms glowing softly. The newly grown trees stood tall, their leaves rustling gently in a breeze that now carried the sweet scent of pine and damp earth, not decay. The corrupted spirits, healed and free, danced like shimmering fireflies around the new saplings, their chitters and whispers full of gratitude and renewed joy. Luna finished, her eyes bright with the telling. Leo and Maya, exhausted but triumphant, looked at the healed land, their hearts filled with the quiet satisfaction of a world unseen, now truly alive. It was this triumph, this profound demonstration of life triumphing over void, that became the guiding principle for the Arcane Grove Academy, a beacon for those who would learn to protect the world, seen and unseen, for generations to come.